And let me see. Make sure we are live on our At the Net podcast page before we get started. Let's see. There we are. Okie dokie. Here we go with the great Jimmy Campbell, right? From Arizona. No, not from Arizona. Atlanta, right?
Atlanta, GA.
Here we go. Jimmy.
Hello. You are At the Net. And welcome, friends, to another episode of the At the Net podcast, powered by Tex-Mex Productions. Working the soundboards in the back of the house are our producers, D-Mac and Dave the Brain. Time to say hello to your hosts, Craig Bell and AJ Shabria, as they're about to take us through 3 sets of tennis, talking life and all the news as it seems to them. Ladies and gentlemen, Craig Bell.
All right. Thanks go out to our At the Net podcast girl. That would be Margot Carter for that outstanding. Outstanding is the word of the evening. Outstanding
in the Queen's English, and we're happy to be here tonight, CB. How are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling really good. Yeah, right now. We're in a remote location. We've got a lot of different things going on, so sorry we're just a couple of seconds late, but we were working out the technical difficulties, but we're on. We've got 3 different locations via somehow. I don't know what happens, how we got this thing going, but we're here, and welcome fans of Pickleball, not the great game of tennis, but the great game of pickleball tonight.
Pickleball, too, yes.
That is correct. You're listening to Season 1, Episode 71 of At the Net Podcast with AJC. That's you, right? Is that you?
Yes, sir. And CB1, that is you next to me.
That is right. We're talking the great game of pickleball this evening as it seems to us. Thanks also go out to our good amigos at Tex-Mex Productions. That would be Dave the Brain, who actually helped us tonight. He was helping me produce the show via FaceTime just a few seconds ago. And Darian D-Mac McBair from back of the house. Moving the dials and buttons. No, that's me tonight, actually. I'm moving the dials and the buttons to make it sound like real people, right? We're real people.
We are real people, and oh, yes, so is our guest. I can't wait to talk to this man.
Yes, and also be sure to check out our good work on Fireside, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Breaker, CastBox, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Spotify, and YouTube. I had to take a breath there. Usually I can get it all without taking a breath, but we have too many places that we broadcast to. But it's all the important communication sites the kids find popular today, right, AJ's?
You bet.
And if you're a female and would like to read the opening intro, like the great Margot Carter, the outstanding Margot Carter, let us know, because we're always looking for some new people to introduce us, even in a foreign language, right?
I would say especially in a cool accent, definitely.
Well, speaking of outstanding, our guest this evening is the outstanding, I think the #1 pickleball referee in the world, the whole world. This is global, Galaxy, the #1. According to some sites I was looking up, our Crackpot Research and Development Department said that Lord Byron Freso is the #1 pickleball referee in the whole entire universe. So, Byron, welcome.
Thank you. Oh, what an accolade.
Well, you are definitely, it seems like we were doing this just about 3 months ago in Rockwall, Texas at the Texas Open. And now here we are again. We're back on the beat again and ready to talk some stuff, anything that comes up to our mind, right, with the great Byron Freso.
It's a pleasure being here, gentlemen. Certainly pickleball is has become kind of my life now, and it's a passion for both my wife and I. And, if I can summarily say, it has changed our lives tremendously over the last 9 years that we've been involved with this sport. And I think this can be said for many people. It's a life-altering experience when you've gotten to play this game of pickleball. So.
Right. No, I think you have found a sport that, or maybe the sport found you, that you were destined to be a part of, right?
I tell you, it literally found me, because I had moved to Florida. We had retired and moved to Florida, and the community where we lived, I was not a tennis player, so I didn't check out the tennis courts until I heard this noise pop, pop, pop across the lake from where we lived. And so I went to investigate it. This older gentleman and his wife, we live in a 55-plus community in Florida. And him and his wife said, "Here, have these two big wooden paddles, 16-ounce paddles. I mean, it's twice the weight that normal people play with." And so they put these paddles in our hands and say, "Hey, come on, let's play." And they did not give us a chance. I mean, they rigged the whole system against us because we were foot faulting, and they would say, "Oh, that's a point. Sorry, next time you'll know better." Do something else. "Oh, that's a point. Sorry, next time you'll know better." And this continued until we lost 11-1 the first game and 11-2 the second game. And so afterwards, I said to him, "You know what? That's not going to happen again. I want to have those paddles you have in your hand."
Yes.
He said, "Oh, I sell these paddles." And he bought a Z5 and a Prowler from Steve Wong at the time, was making those paddles. And we went and practiced on our own. But just a little backdrop, I had gone through a knee replacement. I had gone through back surgery, and racquetball was my sport. And I was a highly competitive racquetball player, and I couldn't play racquetball the way I used to. And so I was moping around until I discovered this great sport. And I found that I could play it and not hurt as badly as I would trying to play racquetball. I literally cold turkey stopped playing racquetball and focused 100% of my energies playing pickleball. The same can be said for my wife too, because
Marcia is wonderful. We had the pleasure of, to give the folks at home a little background, had the pleasure of meeting Marcia, seeing what a great, not just a wonderful couple you are, but remarkable ambassadors for the game of pickleball. And maybe a month before that, as Craig alluded to, we shared time in the commentary booth, and Byron was a wealth of information, and I credit him for a lot that we know. Byron, you were about to tell us a little bit about the paddles. What was different about Steve Wong's paddle, and how has that influenced your path in this game?
Well, at the time, there weren't a whole lot of paddle manufacturers out there. Steve Wong, his company used to be known as S-Type back then, and he then changed the name to Onyx with a different logo than Onyx as of today. So he had a full line of paddles. You had a guy named Brian Jensen made a set of paddles also, the pop paddles. Then you had another company, Pickleball Now. So there are a few paddle manufacturers out there. But I like the Steve Wong's paddle because it hit well. I got the graphite model rather than the composite. The composite is a little heavier. And at the time, the graphite was softer, and I could play a control game rather than a power game, which is my preference.
I see.
So I got hooked on his paddles, and have literally been playing with an Onyx paddle from day one.
That is excellent. Yeah. Hey, the 16 ounces that they gave you were wood. The new ones are, you mentioned graphite. What is in a composite one? Is that graphite and fiberglass?
Well, the composite is just the skin, but the core of the paddle is Nomex core. And so pretty much back then, all paddles were made with the Nomex core. It was a bit noisy, and but that's what manufacturers knew to make paddles with. And since then, we've changed to different types of material, from aluminum core to you name it. Not composite. I'm trying to remember the name of the paddles that preceded.
Fiberglass? Anything? Maybe were there any fiberglass paddles made at the time?
Yeah, fiberglass. You had fiberglass paddles. Engage started making fiberglass paddles. Selkirk came on board and started making paddles. As a matter of fact, 2014, when Selkirk started, I almost became one of the first Selkirk sponsored players. I stopped by their facility in Hayden, Idaho, and picked up some paddles from them, started trying them out. Fortunately, later on, Nationals came around, that 2014, and this was going to be their first time actually having a booth at Nationals. And I got to Nationals and discovered a company that Pickleball Now made a green paddle that I absolutely fell in love with, and told Selkirk, hey guys, sorry, but this paddle I'm hitting with is better than what you had. I may have regretted that, that comment, considering how Selkirk has really blown up the market. But certainly, paddles are personal things, and it's got to feel right to you. If it doesn't feel right, then it makes no sense.
Byron, we've delved into some highly technical stuff, which we love. Normally, we'll go with background. I'll let Craig add to this, but tell us the end of that story and how it got you started on your journey to become a really, really good player. You lost 11-1, 11-2 to some good players with wood paddles in your hand. What happened the next few times you played?
Well, we acquired the paddles. The next day, he brought these two paddles to us, and my wife and I literally went off. You there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
My wife and I literally went off and practiced on our own. We pulled up some YouTube videos, saw Steve Wong was talking about playing, and he's willing to give lessons. So we went off practice, came back a month later, and took on that couple again, and we spanked them. I mean, spanked them 11-0, 11-0.
Right.
And so they said about 2 weeks after we came back and played them, the club said that you, Marcia and Byron, you cannot play together anymore. You have to split up because you're dominating everybody here. So it's not that we were that good. It's just that the community was an elderly community, and there were some good players, but we were just more dedicated than they were to playing, because we wanted to play tournaments. They are not interested in playing tournaments, only strictly recreationally.
And Marcia has an athletic background. You definitely do. You came to pickleball from racquetball. What other sports did you play as a background? Because we do see a lot of pro pickleball players who come from tennis. But tell us your background. You came from a different direction.
Oh, yeah. Well, my background started off with volleyball back in my home country of Guyana. And table tennis. I played a lot of table tennis. I was a member on the second team, the national junior team, second team. And so that's my background in sports. I also play rugby, table tennis, cricket, volleyball. And then I came over to the States. I played squash before that, and then racquetball.
Wow, you played a lot of sports. You had you had a great foundation, it sounds like, before you actually got into pickleball.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this different racket and hand-eye coordination sports really bode well for me. My biggest problem over the years has been just injury, and it has really set me back tremendously. If not, I would have been out there instead of just solely refereeing. I would have been out there playing in every tournament there is.
Oh, that's great.
The best I did last time I played in a major tournament was 2016 at Nationals. I got a bronze medal and lost in the bronze medal to Scott Moore and Steve Dawson. The problem is that I got injured during that tournament and literally was hobbling in the back draw trying to get to the bronze medal. Like 3 matches from the bronze medal match, I pulled up lame. And my partner at the time, Mike Gates, I said, Mike, you're going to have to run like you've never run before. And I said, all I need to do is get to the non-volley zone line. Once I get there, I'm good, because my hands were fast and I could withstand any attack, which was the mistake that my opponents did. They tried to drive the ball through me, and they paid the price. And so we hustled our way to the bronze medal. But playing against Steve Dawson and Scott Moore was not going to be an easy road to to travel. They lobbed the heck out of us, man. I couldn't go and get everything. poor Mike was zipping balls by my ears every time, just chasing down lobs. And they just smoked us. I think it was 11-2, 11-7.
Uh-huh. And that was after you came through the opportunity bracket. You earned the shot at the bronze. They took that one. Did they advance any further than that?
Well, that was the bronze medal match. We got the bronze, and they advanced to the gold medal match.
They did. And how did they do in that one?
They lost to Scott Burr and Steve Kennedy.
Awesome that you remember all the details. I know we spent some time with you, but also Scott Moore in the booth at that Texas Pickleball Open, and we hope to have him on the show one day too. Getting back to your path, and again, in the spirit of our first set, tell us a little bit about what did you do, the things that you did that got you really good in that month, and then maybe you could follow that up with some of the things that you and Marcia did to get to the national level in subsequent years.
Well, I think the thing that I could not emphasize more, and especially to young players coming up or anyone trying to play the sport, is drill, drill, drill.
Drill.
Yes, we went off and we drilled, we practiced, we drilled. Like I said, we looked at a lot of YouTube videos with Steve Wong, with Enrique Ruiz, who was the big guy back then. He was the national singles champion. Gigi Lamaster. We emulated a lot of what they were doing, and we drilled and got better at it. But the thing is that living in Florida, there are only age tournaments that were being played. We weren't open to skill level. So we didn't know anything about a skill level or what skill level we were until we went to the National Senior Games, and we beat the first team. We played 11-0, 11-0, 11-1. And the gentleman at the time was the chairperson for the ratings committee. He walked over to us and said, "As of tonight, you are 4 or 5 players." I'm like, 4 or 5, what is that?
Yeah, what does that mean? Yeah.
Oh, great.
He said 4 or 5. I said, okay. So we were, National Senior Games was held in Cleveland that year in 2013. And we were heading out to Arizona. So got to Arizona for nationals and discovered that this is where all the good players were playing. And so we decided that, we're going to spend the rest of the winter in Arizona. And we have literally been coming back to Arizona ever since. We didn't even go back and play any tournament in Florida. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds like a great path. And you were right in the early days of really what pickleball has come into its own right now. And it's still growing, but you were there 7-8 years ago when there was literally, there's some people playing, but you were right there on the ground floor, weren't you?
No.
Yeah, the sport really took off back in 2009, 2010. And you had, even though the USAPA was trying to do their best to ensure the growth of the sport, it was even, it's been in existence since 1965. But it was primarily played in Washington State and Oregon. That's where all the good players were. Mm-hmm. And it came to Arizona because a lot of the snowbirds came down from Oregon and Washington to Arizona. One of the hotbeds for pickleball play in Arizona is a place called Palm Creek. You had 65% Canadians. The Canadians would come down there. They learned to play the sport, took it back to Canada. And then the Oregonians and the Washingtonians who came down there, they taught the Canadians and others who came south for the winter, taught them how to play, and they went back to their different communities and literally exploded the sport nationwide. You had another group would come down from Pennsylvania, and they primarily went to Florida. And there were a few good players in Florida, and those players resided in the villages. Guys like Brian Staub, Phil Bagley, a guy named Chris, can't remember Chris's last name, but these guys were the dominant national champions back in their day. And then you had guys in the East Coast, so on the West Coast, like the Puppet Master, Tim Nelson, again, Enrique Ruiz, who was the singles guy. So all these different areas, we kind of benefited from gaining experience playing with these different players. And it really caused us to say, man, this is a sport that we want to hang around with. And for me, I've always been involved in just about every sport I played on the administrative side. And so we got involved in the refereeing and I became one of the people who rated players around the country and submitted their names to USAPA to elevate them from a 3-0 to a 3-5 or 3-5 to 4-0 and so forth. So all this kind of encompassed itself into making us, a well-rounded team, my wife and I, and knowing from the rules to refereeing to rating players to playing. We wanted to see this sport grow and we wanted to be a part of it. And so as we traveled from Arizona during the summer months, we would conduct clinics all around the country. We would go up into South Dakota, North Dakota. We conducted clinics in Kansas City, in Maine. I mean, we went all over the country in our RV, just teaching the game and teaching people the rules of the game. So
became the Pied Pipers of pickleball.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Ned, what got you really interested in rules? Are you a lawyer by trade, or were you just what regulations? Were you always that kind of a person that was interested in rules and regulations?
Oh yeah, I've always been involved in rules in racquetball and volleyball, and so for me, the transition to rules in pickleball was an easy one. One of the things that I've always said to players when I teach them is that you can take at least 2 to 3 points off of an opponent if you know the rules thoroughly. And I used to do this in racquetball. I would gain points because I knew the rules and what I am allowed to do. And I would do something like I would encroach on a player, but I would move away at the last minute. And players would look up at the ref, well, he cannot do that. And the ref said, point. So that for me was always the advantage I had over my opponents. Even if I could not beat them straight up, I knew the rules enough so that it gave me a 2 or 3 point advantage on them.
That's great. When you became, what is your position with the USAPA, USA Pickleball Association?
Well, the name has changed now. It's now known as USA Pickleball to conform to the nomenclature that they're using for all the sports that are want to be Olympic sports.
Right.
Like USA Volleyball, USA Racquetball, USA Pickleball now.
Yeah.
And so I am currently the chairperson for the Pro Advisory Committee. We focus our attention on the pro side of things, not on the skill level side. When we're responsible for some rule changes and enforcing a new code of conduct that will be implemented in January. Currently, several of the changes the committee that I chair has implemented that is going to be reflected in the new rules that are coming up from January. Mm-hmm. Things such as, for example, instead of giving a point to an opponent for a technical foul infraction that I might have committed, my opponent would normally get a point in the old rules. In the new rules, a point will be taken away from me, and not my opponent gets a point because I did something that was egregious enough to warrant a technical foul. Okay, you've got things such as you lose a game. These are things that have not been implemented before, where you could lose a game. An example of this is when a match is over. In the past, a player could do something like toss his paddle, 3 courts across from where they're playing, because they lost and they're just pissed off, the referee literally cannot do anything because the match is over.
I see.
Now you can lose a game, which now, even if you won, you have to go back and play that match to its completion now because you just lost a game, was taken away from you. In addition to that, we've got things like ejection, forfeitures, where you could be removed from the tournament, but you could remain in the facility. And then we take it to the next level will be we remove you from the facility if your behavior is so egregious enough that it warrants the tournament director or the referee consulting with the tournament director to have you removed from this facility. In addition to that, what we're looking to do is to implement suspensions. For, if your behavior is such that it warrants a 2-game or 2-tournament suspension, that will be hopefully part of the code of conduct that we are looking to implement. So there are lots of things that we've done as a committee. In addition to that, we're looking to implement the ranking system and a tiering system for tournaments.
Byron, it sounds like racquetball and squash and tennis have all in many ways come before pickleball, but pickleball has gone so far with rules. In fact, I even remember in the 70s when tennis wasn't anywhere near as organized as it is now. How many years has it taken to get pickleball to the point where it's so professional and well organized?
Well, I mean, I would say that the USAPA back then, the USAPA, did a fantastic job in terms of implementing rules enough so that it would punish the bad behavior, but it didn't go far enough to really punish bad behavior because, like I said, a player could do something as crazy as toss a paddle, hit someone with a paddle, and the match is over. And at most could happen is like, sorry, don't do that again, okay? Now that can warrant you being ejected from the tournament, ejected from the facility, suspended for the next couple of tournaments, 1 or 2 tournaments, all depends. So over the last, I would say the rules have been tightening up a little bit more so in the last 5 years, 5-6 years. And hopefully with the new rules coming in next year, with this implementation of the code of conduct, it would tighten the grips a little more on player behavior. The whole thing about the code of conduct is not necessarily to want to gotcha to the players. I mean, I don't believe in punishing just or looking for every little gotcha and say, oh, yeah, there you got you now. I think it is to deter behavior. And because I feel that 99% of the players out there are pretty much they adhere to the rules and they practice good behavior, good sportsmanship. But you've got that 2 or 3 or 4 of them out there that really sometimes you want to knuckle them across the head and say, "Come on, behave yourself." Okay.
So Byron, you're such an uncle figure to all of them. At least that's the vibe I picked up on. Craig, you may have another couple of questions in the first set, but I do want to, in the spirit of the first set in the background, I want to hear a little bit before we get to the last couple of questions, and then we'll transition over to set number 2, which is current and future projects. Byron, tell us a little bit about your background before pickleball, back in Guyana, and how you made your way up here to the States.
Oh, well, I came to the United States on a government scholarship. The government of Guyana back then would issue academic scholarships to students who they thought were, yeah. So every year they would send out at least 5 to 10 students. They send them overseas to Canada, United States, and England. I opted to come to the United States because I had read all about Georgia Tech, and not only that, I had relatives who lived in Atlanta, and I didn't want to come to a strange country and didn't know anyone. So Georgia Tech was my first choice, and the government of Guyana agreed because it had a very good electrical engineering program, which is what I came here to study. Unfortunately, the government of Guyana decided that they were going to transition from a democracy, so to speak, to a socialist society. And the president, who kind of made himself president for life at the time, recalled all the students from overseas and told them that they'll be going to school in Russia and in Cuba to study. So my dad didn't want to hear anything of that. He said, "Son, you are not coming back here and going to any Russia or Cuba to study. You're not going to any communist country. And I will make sure that you attend college there, and I will pay for it myself." The government decided to punish my parents because I still have the letter up to now. They said if I do not return to Guyana, that I will be, my parents will be punished. And they literally gave my parents hell. They seized a lot of their business assets. My dad had, in Guyana, the banking system was not, you didn't have computers. It was all ledger, general ledgers. And my dad had a lot of millions of dollars in fixed deposits from his business. They literally seized that money. And to this day, we cannot find the money that the government seized because, like I said, there weren't any computers, so you can't go back and trace anything. The ledgers disappeared. And even though I have a very good idea who's responsible, and I'm going to get that guy yet still. So, but in any case, the government said that if you don't come back, we're going to punish your parents. And they certainly did this. They seized my dad's business assets. My parents literally was trying their best to send money to me. And the way they would send money to me is there were people who were sending money to their family in Guyana. They would then said, these people, they would say, okay, my dad said, I will pay your family here in Guyana and you give my son the money over there. So that's how I literally was able to survive in the United States while in school. I also applied for hardship in college and I was granted some reprieve while in college. I was allowed to work 20 hours a week maximum. And that's how I got my start. I had not gone back to Guyana from the time I left in 1974. I had not gone back to Guyana again until 1988, from 74 to 88. And that's because the president who was president for life died. And the new person who took over literally invited me with open arms. I even have a picture with myself and the president of Guyana, because at the time I was the president of the Guyana Association in Washington, D.C. And so we went back to Guyana. He invited me and literally said, you know, all is very forgiven. You're good to go. And don't worry about anything. You know.
Unbelievable story.
That's a great story, actually.
What a story of freedom and a very, very happy ending. How has it affected you to have, politically and personally, how has it affected you to have a government so antithetical to democracy? And it happened very suddenly when it changed your course and clearly your parents. How have you handled it, and what has that taught you?
Well, I tell you, you know, I don't want to get too political here, but certainly when people speak of freedoms and choices, and you don't have those, you don't have the freedom, you don't have the choices, and you've got that in America in spades. I always smile and said, "You guys, you don't even know half."
We don't know.
I could have been in Cuba or in Russia. I might have learned to speak the Russian language. Who knows? Because several of my friends who were sent to Russia, they're fluent in Russian, and those who were in Cuba became very fluent in Spanish.
Espanol, yeah.
Yeah, but for me, it's I feel I'm blessed and privileged to be in the United States of America, and I wouldn't change that for anything in my life. I love my home country. Don't get me wrong. I especially today with the new government that was in place after the previous dictator died. The things changed tremendously with the then president, and the country decided to get back into the free market economy, and there was a lot of growth, but there was still not enough of a change where people felt they were part of the system and allowed them to have those freedoms. So as a result, even though they've always had elections every 5 years, the government always won. It's like Russia. Yes, we have elections, but Mr. Putin is always the winner. Don't worry about everything else.
The opposite of sports, right? Sports is the ultimate reality show, egalitarian and meritocracy, and that wasn't what's going on. Yeah. Craig, anything else in the first set? I'm happy we uncovered that a little bit. What do you say, CB?
No, I think that's let's go to the second set, because I think that we've got some interesting aspects to move into the second set, sponsored by Master Systems. Our good buddy Blair Descaray with Master Systems. If you're looking for on-court, off-court, building products, all sorts of interesting things with pickleball or tennis, look for our good buddy Blair Descaray with Master Systems.
And it's funny you mentioned Blair. Perfect timing. He is building, of course, tennis courts, but he's doing a lot of pickleball courts at the homes of people. And I try to think of my own house. Not a huge house, pretty big yard, no room for a tennis court, but definitely room for what Blair is doing a ton of these days, which is a sport court with pickleball, full court, and basketball goals on either side. They simply move the net and play basketball, too.
Right.
So, it's neat you mentioned Master Systems, and let's get to our second set, in which we talk about the guests' current projects and future projects. You've already touched a little bit on USA Pickleball and formerly USAPA, and being the representative with US Pickleball that takes care of the Pro Tour. Is that right?
Well, not takes care of the Pro Tour. We are an advisory committee and advise the USA Pickleball and the other tours, the APP Tour, the PPA Tour, and several of the independent tournaments. We want to be able to advise them as to how the pros would like to see things done. A lot of what's happening here is being driven by the players and not by the governing body. And I think that is the thing that needs to be recognized here, is that the players never really had a say in how things were done in the past. Now with the committee, we can advise the USA Pickleball, and we can advise these different tours as to what, taking into consideration where the tours want to go, what they want to do, but at the same time, bringing a player perspective to those tours and tournaments.
That's great. When we've seen you in your element at a pro tournament, you connect equally well with other officials who've probably learned from you, as you connect with pro players, whether they're signed with the racket, the paddles that you sell or your company makes, or some other company. You connect really well with them. How have you managed that? How do you connect so well with both sides of it?
Well, one of the things that I try not to, I've always adhered to a philosophy in refereeing, and I've always said, do not be a dictator. Don't be dictatorial. You go out there and it's the walk a mile in my shoe type of syndrome. where got to be empathetic to the players and understand what's happening with them. You're not going to be a pushover, but at the same time, you want to ensure that you're doing right by them, right by the players. And my style of refereeing is one that I always want to do right by the players. And you, as a referee, from the referee's perspective, the best thing that you can do is to know the rules and know how to apply them when an occurrence that requires a rule to be executed happen. So, for example, if you decide that the player committed a foot fault, and the player looks at you and says, "No, I didn't commit a foot fault," and your response is, "Yes, you did," you don't encourage a whole lot of long, drawn-out conversation. You hear them, and then you say, "Okay, good, but the fault still occurs." And next thing I will do is call the score, so we don't get into long, drawn-out conversations. And I think players, anytime something happens, I am pretty much one that would state it one time emphatically, and I move on. I don't encourage a whole lot of conversation and back chat, from players. And I think players respect that. If a player appeals to me on something, I say, yes, the ball was good, the ball was not good. I don't waffle or create the kind of a contentious situation where they're like, you really don't know what you're doing. And I never want to come across as not knowing what I'm doing out there. And I think overall players respect that. And I've garnered that respect over the years. I can only think of about 2 different occasions where I've had a drawn-out conversation with players. And as alluded to, Scott Moore was one of the players.
Do you think
that incident in Texas, the previous year at the Texas Open.
Do you think there'll be any celebrity umpires, referees like there were in baseball, like Ron Luciano or Ed Hockley of the NFL? There's a celebrity status amongst referees and umpires. So maybe Byron, being the number 1 pickleball referee, might be the first celebrity referee in the great game of pickleball, right?
Well, I don't know if I want to consider myself a celebrity referee. What I want to be known as a referee who knows what he's doing and calls a fair game and make sure that the players are treated right and the opponents are treated right. So that is my focus. That's my number 1 mantra, is to ensure that it's a fair game. And no player can then look at me and say, "Hey, I am not sure that that call that you made there. I don't like that call. Why did you make that call?" And my response would be, because it is a call that needs to be made. End of story. Move on. Nothing. The thing that cuts an argument short, if every referee would practice this, is call the score.
Yes.
Because you've got 10 seconds after I've called that score to either serve or receive. And if you don't, then the power of the rule book is in my hand again. I can then execute on it. But if you keep talking, and yes, you want to be fair to them. You want to hear them out for a quick second, but it cannot be in an argumentative manner, in a long, drawn-out conversation, which tends to breed contempt. It tends to breed, you start losing credibility as a referee. And the worst thing that can happen is if you've lost credibility with the players. They would take every advantage of you as a referee if they feel like you're not credible enough.
On the players' side of things, I'm sure they respect when you make a decision and keep it quick, because the less time they spend stewing, the more they can move on to the moment, the now, the point at hand. And in some ways, do you ever feel like a mentor or a coach, not just an official, a referee?
Well, the one that you said a bad word in refereeing, and that's coach.
Coaching.
That is the one word that you cannot use in refereeing.
Definitely.
And that is the word coaching.
Yeah.
I mean, people have had agita, heartburn, and palpitations when anyone says something that they feel, oh, that was coaching. Like, for example, we used to be able to say to players, if you serve an illegal serve, I will call this on you. We don't do that anymore because the minute the fault occurs, you call it.
Yeah.
It's not open for discussion or second guessing. Fault, move on. So coaching is a bad word when it comes to referees, and no referee. I mean, that's the one thing I feel that every referee, I don't care if they're that good or not that good, they know one thing: you can't coach. You can't say something to a player that could be construed as coaching that player. I mean, everyone would be, up in arms and having a fit.
Yeah.
Well, what's the number one infraction that probably you see the most in pickleball? I just was thinking that as from a referee standpoint, is there something that you can tell the audience that's listening? This is the infraction probably that's most likely to happen in pickleball in the matches that you've refereed.
I think one of the biggest infraction that creates a problem, and it's being addressed in the upcoming rules, and that's the serve. What is an illegal serve and what is not an illegal serve? That has run the test of time and has been discussed ad nauseum.
Really?
I have had, I can't even count the number of times someone sends me a video. Hey, Byron, can you tell me, is this a serve illegal or is it legal? And invariably, I look at it. If you send it to me in a slow motion, it's easy to determine. I always say to people, let me see it in regular speed, and then I'll tell you what, as a referee, I'm looking at that, and I can make that determination quickly at regular speed, because if I'm I don't have the benefit of seeing a serve in slow motion, okay, to make that determination. So, and one of the biggest thing is the player serving above the waist? Is the paddle head above the wrist? Are they serving sideways as opposed to finishing in an upward arc? One of the things is that you have to hit the ball on the upward swing and not behind. If you get to that 90-degree angle, if you hit it before that 90-degree angle, then it's considered slicing the ball or putting backspin on the ball, which is illegal. You should not, you can't be putting backspin on the ball. So, however, with the new rule changes, there's an optional serve now that, I'm going into a little area that you may want to discuss there a little later, because this has to do with some of the new rules and some of the challenges that will be faced by referees and when they're, officiating as to whether that was illegal or not illegal. If you want, I can go into it quickly.
Yeah. No, keep going. I think it's interesting.
So,
tell us.
In the new rules, the optional serve is the drop serve, where if you stretch your arm out in front of you, okay, and let gravity take a hold of the ball, and you release it, and the ball would most likely bounce somewhere between your knee and halfway up to your thigh, it wouldn't rise all the way up to your waist because you're just stretching your arm out and dropping it. The ball doesn't bounce that high. But in the past, if you toss the serve, you had to swing through in an upward arc. Contact has to be made on the upward motion of your swing. Your paddle has to be below your wrist, and you must hit below the waist. In the drop serve, none of that applies anymore. You can drop it, slice it, backspin it, curve it, flip it, two-handed backhand serve. There are a couple of guys who've already demonstrated their love for the drop serve because now they're good drivers of the ball. And when you toss the ball and you serve, essentially, oftentimes, unless you're Tyson McGuffin, who has one of the hardest serves out there, people just get the ball in play.
Yeah.
And now guys who can drive from the baseline, they are ripping the ball with a forehand drive, or if they have a two-handed backhand drive, they're just ripping the ball. So now it's going to be interesting with the new rule change, because this is going to be put in effect for a year, and see how it takes off. But I will tell you, there are guys who are chomping at the bits already, because they have been practicing their two-handed drive serve from the bounce, their forehand drive from the bounce. So,
does the ball have to be? Is it shoulder height? Can you drop it from higher than your head, like I'm doing right now, or do you have to be?
Yeah, you can drop it. You put your arm out.
Okay. So however high you can reach, maybe. Yeah.
A 45-degree angle. Okay. And you just release it.
Interesting. And it can be struck anywhere? Does it have to be below the waist?
Oh, yeah. The whole idea is that the ball will not be struck above the waist, because the ball doesn't bounce above the waist.
All right.
So even if you drop it from your outstretched arm, the ball doesn't bounce that high to, say, bounce above your waist, because you cannot use any momentum. You can't throw it down. You cannot toss it up in the air and let it bounce. If you do that, obviously the ball will bounce above your waist.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it actually can hit. You can hit the court. It can actually hit the court, and then it can come up, and you can start it.
Oh yes.
Okay.
It can hit the court.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's the thing that is going to be a tremendous asset for guys who can really have a great forehand or two-handed backhand drive. So, okay. They can just rip that ball, just as if they're ripping a forehand shot.
Yeah. Was that something that you all been talking about for a few months, a year or so, or more, or was that just something that came up recently, more than likely?
Well, this is something that's been discussed for years by a gentleman by the name of Steve Peranto. Steve Peranto has always argued that it is tough to tell whether a person is serving legally if you can't tell if it's below their waist or the paddle is above their wrist. And so he felt that if you drop the ball, then you can hit anywhere you want, anyhow you want. But I've seen one interesting guy did something very interesting. He bounced the ball and literally stooped down, and the ball bounced up. He literally hooked, almost like an overhead hook serve.
Like sidearm hook.
Sidearm, yeah. He bounced it, and he stooped all the way down and hook serve. So I have got a little thing into the rules committee. I wanted to understand this, because you're not supposed to hit the ball above your waist. But if he stoops down, the ball is above his shoulder.
Yeah.
So is that illegal or not illegal? I haven't gotten a response back yet. Okay. So I'm waiting for that challenge to take place, where a player is going to say, hey, you told me I can hit the ball anywhere, anyhow, and so therefore I can stoop down and hit the ball in an overhead slice fashion that allows me to curve the ball. I mean, I've seen guys literally drop it and then just do a hard backspin slice, and the ball hit just beyond the non-volley zone line and died.
It just sits, yeah. Yeah, it just dies right there.
So imagine you behind the baseline expecting a serve to come, at least a deep serve come, and suddenly you're faced with the aspect of this ball just skipping, just beyond the non-volley zone line. It's going to be a scramble to get there, and it's going to be challenging for perhaps older players.
Yeah,
who wouldn't have the legs to stop themselves in chasing that ball and running into the net as a result of that.
So, Byron, with a rule change like this, do you see? First of all, I need to ask: will this rule change affect pros and recreational players in the age groups and the levels?
Everyone.
Smart. And when they drop serve, they can slice. When they don't drop serve, they can't slice. They have to hit it fairly flat or with mild topspin. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So now with the toss serve, for example, my serve, I have a backhand serve.
Right.
And I hit it out front, but I side spin the ball, which for me, I love that serve because especially if it's a slightly crosswind day.
Yes.
And I hit that serve right in the corner, it kicks way out and pulls the player way off court.
Love it.
So they return it, and now I'm just looking to go down the middle, seeing that I've got the big gap now that's been formed. So this is going to be interesting in that in the drop serve, players are even taking the slice to a whole different level now, where you literally slice under the ball, so you're putting side spin and on the spin. Kind of like table tennis serve.
Yeah.
If you do a table tennis chop and a side spin, you're kind of spinning it downwards and sideways at the same time, and this can create some problems for players trying to get that ball returned. So it's going to be interesting to see how players adapt to it. I say it's going to be an easy adaptation by the servers more so than the receivers. The receivers, unless they have a good drive return, they're going to perhaps struggle a little bit, especially facing a person with a great drive. I can see them struggling and hitting because the whole idea behind hitting that hard drive is to have a short return. And all you're doing is step in behind it and just rip the ball down the middle.
Yeah.
Does this take effect in January 1st?
Mid-January.
Mid-January, okay.
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah,
breaking
right
news.
Now the rules have gone out to all the certified referees and ambassadors, and I think it should have gone out earlier this week to players in general, because I saw the change, the rule changes, and there's been a document put out and reasons behind the change, why change the rules, and this is why, we changed this rule because this is what we wanted to achieve, and so it's going to be interesting to see how many people adopt to this new rule.
Do you see quite a few people adapting to the drop serve? Do you think you think it's going to be overwhelmingly supported, or do you see maybe a few?
Oh yeah, I can see. You're familiar with the yips, right? So there are players who literally have the yips,
sure,
because they can't hit the ball when they toss it.
Sure,
ball they swing and the ball is going left, right. I mean, my wife literally got the yips once.
Oh no!
In the finals, in the singles. Okay, no worse time to have the yips than having it done in singles. And she literally was up 10-1 on her opponent. Okay, 10-1 to close out the match, and literally could not serve. And so she lost.
Yeah, because that's the only way you can score. In pickleball, that's the only way you can score is when you're serving.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It happened to us when we were playing mixed doubles. I was the only server. I only hope that every time I serve, I won a point. That kept us ahead of our opponents, they were getting 2 serves and we were only getting 1 because she could not serve her ball in. So
Byron, so people with the yips, they would benefit a little bit from that extra moment as the ball drops, hits the ground, comes up and bounces to your thigh or knee level, and then you bang a slice or hit it as a feed. Either way, right? As a normal shot.
Absolutely. It's just like, getting a ground stroke. They can hit ground strokes all day long, except to toss serve. Now they can bounce it like it's a regular ground stroke they're going to hit and just swing at it. There's no technique that they necessarily need to learn to adapt to the bouncer.
I look forward to trying this out. Yeah. Like you, I do the backhand serve usually in pickleball, but I'm going to try it both sides. I can't wait. Thank you for giving us this new one. Tell us more. Are there any other future projects, not just for USA Pickleball, not just for Onyx, but you personally. Tell us about what's next for you, Byron.
Well, my main focus right now is twofold. One, I'm with the APP, and as the head referee for the APP, my job is to ensure that we've got a good cadre of officials for all the tournaments, and make sure that players adhere to the rules. So that is going to be part of my task, my job as the head referee for the APP. I'm going to be focused on putting out matches on center court, organizing that between the operations desk and the broadcasters so that they know exactly which match is coming up next, what match going to be out there. So, and I'm always looking for good referee coordinators. Now, people ask, what's the difference between a referee coordinator and the head referee?
Yeah.
The referee coordinator essentially handles the appointments of referees for matches. So, utilizing the Pickleball desk software, they assign a referee to a match. They also they solicit referees, and so they can get, whether we need at least 10 referees, depending on the day planner for the tournament. We may need 10 referees, or we may need 15 referees, or 20 referees. That's the referees coordinator's job, to get those referees. And then we look at assigning referees to matches. The head referee's job is to, if there's an issue on the court, my job is to go out there and handle it. So if the referee can't handle it, the players can say, well, I need to talk to the head referee because I don't feel like you're dealing with me in a manner that is conducive to my benefit. So my job is to make sure that we resolve the issue at hand, and that the players are satisfied with that resolution and move on. Yeah. The other thing too, as the head referee, not only am I ensuring that the matches move in an orderly manner, but also to assign those referees who I deem necessary to referee the finals. I work in conjunction with the referee coordinator to assign referees for finals and medal matches, because not every referee, in the past, let me back up. In the past, referees went into a queue. And in the queue, you're next up, you go out and referee. Now comes the medal matches. It just so happens that an inexperienced referee ends up next in line to referee the gold medal match.
Uh-oh.
Okay. No, that doesn't happen anymore.
No.
So I would assign the best referee available. And I work it in a manner that is fair to everybody, because there are lots of great referees out there. And I want to make sure that I'm fair and not only to the players, but to the referees themselves, that I put the best candidate out there to referee their matches. So that's my goal as the head referee. Other than that, I want to make sure that matches are running smoothly. Things are happening in real time, that players are not upset about something. If there's some concerns the players have, I will address it, or I will work with the tournament director to resolve an issue that may require a player being ejected or something of that nature. So.
That's great. Yeah. Byron, you had some great advice for players in your journey up from beginning pickleball to becoming a really national level player. You said drill, 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 drill. What advice do you have for maybe players, maybe aspiring pro players, aspiring officials? What advice do you have for the next generation coming up?
Well, I look at some of these young players that are coming up, like Annalie Waters, William Sobek, 16. William is 16, Annalie is 13.
Yeah.
And they're just phenoms. We've got some additional young players that are really making a name for themselves. And the key thing that, this guy named Wyatt Stone, Wyatt. You interviewed Wyatt, one of the up and coming.
Yes.
That really going to be making a name for themselves in the future. One of the things that I would advise players in coming up through the ranks, don't be cocky. Okay, be mindful of how you present yourself. You try to come across as cocky, then you got people gunning for you. You got the crowd against you. Even though some people feed off of that, you don't want to be known as that person in a sport that is, do questionable things or people question your integrity or what have you. So maintain that high level of integrity, and don't give people cause to, feel that you're an idiot. Okay. For the pro players, I think that these guys have become brand names in of themselves. I mean, today a lot, and let me speak from Onyx perspective here. A lot of players would write me and say, "I want to be sponsored. Can you sponsor me?" And my comment to them is, "Why should I sponsor you? Give me a good reason why I should sponsor you." Because today, manufacturers are no longer just sponsoring a player just because they ask.
Yeah.
Okay. In the past, I would feel that, all right, good. I'll send you a paddle, and here's a contract. And that went on for several years. Now, you've got to bring something to the table. You got to be able to become one that advertising the brand, being one that promotes the brand. And in addition to that, we look to players to even become salespersons. On the Onyx team, I've got a couple of players who are tremendous salespeople. I mean, they sell thousands of dollars worth of paddles every year. So that is a player that, I am going to do everything I can to make sure that they are a member of the team. And this is not just for Onyx. This is just about any other manufacturer. Then you've got players who really, they don't care to be sponsored. They want to be out there on their own, doing their own thing. And I have no problem with that because, they want to make a name for themselves and create their own brand. So what I've said to them, you got to go out there and find those non-endemic sponsors. Several of them have done this. Tyson is one of the players. Riley, he is sponsored by Takea, and so these guys have really gone out there and sought additional levels of sponsorship that is, really doing well, causing them to do well for themselves financially.
Yeah.
And it's those who don't want to do those things going to find themselves looking in the window, because these guys that are marketing themselves and creating a brand for themselves are going to take off, and those who don't, going to find themselves falling behind. Okay.
I've noticed the household names have a big Instagram presence, and some of them even do podcasts.
Oh yes, Tyson has a podcast. Morgan Evans, he has one, and then you've got guys like Mark Renison, who has got both the training and a podcast. So these guys combine training. So Tyson has a training arm to his business where he teaches, and then he has this podcast that allows him to talk about things that he will be doing at the training classes. So the same thing goes for Morgan Evans. He sells packages of videos that players can buy and look at it and learn. Sarah Ansbury is another one. She's just gone to the same model where she's doing videos. Before she was just doing ebooks, and she would do videos, but it was free. You can go out there and pull it up, and she uses that as a way of getting potential customers and then she charges for services. Now players are finding that the market is getting crowded with instructors, and so you've got to be able to differentiate yourself from the next guy, and that way you differentiate yourself by creating your own podcast, and so you can speak to the way you teach and the instructional content that you want to provide players, and you do it for a fee. Okay, so some of these guys, for a nominal fee of $10 a month, you can have access to all these podcasts. I think it's like once a month, or they twice a month. So guys are now creating good business models from doing these podcasts, and I think it's only a matter of those who can, adhere to the hustle. Going to succeed.
Very nice. I know it's a brave new world of not just the digital media side of it, but like branding. But like you said, these pro players making a massive brand and a big name for themselves. CB, what else do we got in the second set, or we want to roll to the third?
Yeah, let's roll to the third. We've been at it an hour and 15. I don't know how much more time Byron has. He might.
Let's do it. We love the fun pop culture third set. CB, go to it, man.
All right, let's Byron, if you'll answer a few of these. These are kind of fun questions. We like to ask all of our guests. So hopefully you like music. We start off always in the music world. First band you saw in concert?
Oh, Lord have mercy. Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Oh, wow. Where was it? Where'd you see Earth, Wind, and Fire at, just out of curiosity? Atlanta. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see, with that Fulton County Stadium or maybe the Georgia Dome?
Yeah. Yep. Right at Fulton County Stadium.
Wow.
So there, and I saw them at the arena called the Omni.
Yep, the Omni downtown.
Yep. That's where I saw them the second time. Great show.
Was this while you were a student at Georgia Tech?
No, I was actually graduated already.
Just out.
Yeah. I that's the only way I could afford to go to. Relatively speaking today, the money was, I think tickets you could have gotten for like $20 or $30. But if you were a student, $20 back then was a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right. A lot of money. Yeah. That's especially, not that even $20. No. I mean, that sounds pretty inexpensive, but by today's standards, $20. Yeah, that might be $200 or whatever.
That's the equivalent today. Yeah, $200.
Yeah,
right.
I've seen. I have been to the other concert. I really enjoy Andrea Bocelli.
Oh, Andrea Bocelli.
Yeah.
The Italian beautiful singer. Yeah.
Yes.
I went to his concert again in Atlanta, and his tickets back then, this was it would have been 2002. $450.
Boy.
Just to get a ticket. Not in the nosebleed section, a little farther back in the first row of the upper balcony. And I'm like, wow, $450. And this, like I said, this is 2002.
Yeah.
Not that long
today
ago.
you can buy a Bocelli ticket. It's like $1,000 to go and see him today.
Yeah, he's a good singer. Who's your favorite band? Who's your favorite? Who do you like to listen to?
I'm a reggae guy, man. And the guy that I know everyone likes Bob Marley. But my band that I really love is Third World.
Third World.
Yeah. Now that we found love, what
are we gonna do
with it? Oh yeah, that's my group, man. I Third World, and the other group was Black Uhuru.
Uhuru, I remember them too. Yeah,
they're out of England, Jamaican roots, but based out of England. They made some great music. I am I can't get with the dancehall reggae these days. I mean, they've got some nice beats, but again, it's just the dance, you know. And I sit back and listen to some good singing and some good rhythm. You know, those are my two go-to bands.
That's when you're
Third World, Black Uhuru. I need to listen to more Black Uhuru. I'm going to check those out tomorrow.
That's your walk-up music to your pickleball tournament, right? When you're doing if you're in a band, what's that?
No, I was saying that used to be my warm-up music in the days of the Discman, the Walkman, Sony Walkman.
Sure.
I would have a disc, you know, when I'm warming up in racquetball, that's what I would have playing, you know.
Pop that cassette in. Pop that cassette in and then get your headphones on.
There you go.
All right, so if you're in a band, you might play an instrument, and so we're going to learn about that here in just a second. If you're in a band, where would you be? Would you be the lead singer, lead guitarist, drummer, keyboards, or bass guitarist?
Two things, singer, lead singer, and bass guitarist.
Really?
Bass.
Did you play the bass guitar? Do you play that?
No, I didn't, but I wish I had learned. I played the congos growing up, and I was in a group. I primarily dealt with, back in Guyana, cultural group. I was part of a cultural group that represented the area where I live, called New Amsterdam, at the National Arts Festival.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So I played the congos, and I was one of the singers in the group. So I still sing some. As a matter of fact, until we left Florida, I played the part of Topol in the community music festival where I live. Yeah.
Oh, really? Wow, man.
Yeah.
This guy's multi-talented.
I'm dressed in the full works, the yarmulke and the forgot what they call it, that drapes over you, the white cloth. I did the whole number.
Wow.
And so my beard was a little thicker, and I literally grown out my beard for the part. And people said they enjoyed it, you know, because I mentioned my baritone voice. But I tend to sing a different, you know, either a baritone or a tenor is more of my way of singing.
You got some good pipes. I can see you being lead singer.
Yeah, I mean, in addition to that, I sang in a band back in Guyana. We had a teenage band. Several of my friends who were in the band, I still see them playing music up to this day. I see them on Facebook. You know, I'm probably the only one that didn't follow up a whole lot in music because I got drawn away by academics and, you know,
business.
Yeah.
And I'm betting, Byron, you're the only one who's played Topol in a musical production, and you wore. Did you wear? Was it the prayer shawl, the white and blue?
Yep.
I think it's called. Is it called a talit?
Talit. That is.
It is talit. Okay, that's it.
Yeah. One of my Jewish friends in the community says if you're gonna sing Topol, then you got to look the part. And
yes.
He, and being a Jewish guy, he brought the whole works to me, including the yarmulke, and I mean, I played the part to the hilt because.
I bet you did, man. That's great. The beard, the shawl, the talit. I love it.
Right.
I even put on one of those. A couple of wraps around my waist to get the stomach out there a little bit. And, so when I had to do the jiggle thing. I have to look authentic.
Right.
You hammed it up, man. That's great.
Yeah.
Oh,
all right. First paid job. What's your first paid gig as a kid? Were you working for your dad?
I was working for my dad.
Yeah.
It's the only job I had prior to coming to the United States. I worked for my dad. But my dad didn't pay me like I was an employee because he never believed in giving anybody money. I had to earn it. So I had to go out there, and I was an electronics guy. And my dad, one of his businesses was jukeboxes. He would rent these jukeboxes all around the country. And so, the punch box that you put a cord in and you put press the A3 for the song you want to come. So I used to fix those things. As a matter of fact, that was the first job that I had when I came to the United States, and I could work. I was passing by on the bus, and I saw this place called Star Music Company in Atlanta. And I stopped the next day on the bus, and I walked into the place, and I said, I understand, what is Star Music Company? And the guy said, well, we rent jukeboxes, and we service them. I said, really? And I said, you have the old Wurlitzes and Row AMIs and rock holders? And the guy said, yeah, but we got a whole warehouse full of them because we don't fix them. I said, are you serious?
Oh.
And the guy said, no, we don't fix them. I said, well, I can fix those things and refurbish them. And the guy looked at me like I was crazy. He said, you can do what? I said, yeah, I can fix them. I know how to fix those things. And he says, okay, tell you what, you come tomorrow on a trial basis. I want to see you work on a couple of these machines, and then I'll decide what to do. So I went back the next day, and I literally tore down the machines, all the pins, the where the records go into the turntable. I mean, the whole works, the speakers, the amplifiers, everything. I tore it all out, spray painted on the inside, painted some of them, they were rusting on the front. So I put silver paint on them and got them looking nice and shiny, put in all these lights. And the guy looked at me and said, like, wow, okay, how would you like to do this full time? And I said, sure. But what he ripped me off, though, and I didn't know any better because I'm new to the United States. I don't know all the rules. And so he paid me $50 for every machine I fixed. But I found out later he was selling them for $2,000 a piece.
Oh, man. Wow. That's a good margin.
Oh, yes. I mean, he was selling to people who wanted to have them in their basement. Back then, people would get these machines and put them in their basement or in the corner of their homes. And so he had a ready market for those machines. And I was the willing participant that was fixing them up. And I think over the 6 months that I worked for him till I realized that this is crazy, I fixed up at least 250 of those things.
Wow. That's what I was going to ask you. The next question, how many of those things did you fixed up? 250 of them. Wow.
You made that guy some good money. Well done.
Yeah, right. Wow.
Yeah, because at the time, and I told him, I said, I can only work 20 hours a week, and I was a full-time student, so I can't come during the day to work. I could only come after school. And he said, okay, no problem. Okay. And me excited about getting some money, just went for it and accepted what he was paying me because I didn't know any better.
Well, that's a great story. About I had thought about those machines in a long time. I remember those. I put a few quarters in a few jukeboxes.
Absolutely right. Definitely remember a Rockola or two and Wurlitzers. All in our childhood, yeah. I
always liked them at the restaurant. When you're sitting there when you're sitting down, you could put a quarter, and then right there also too. Did you fix those? Did you fix those too?
Yeah, no, the remote ones where you actually can flip the labels, and then you press the number, and it was electronically connected to the jukebox itself. You got either two ways. You can have personal music next to you right there because the machine was right there at the table, or it would allow you can hook up to the main machine, and all you had was at your table was the labels of every record. So you would press A2 or B3, and it was wired to the actual machine that would then play this song. And so you had all these tables that had these the controllers with them. Oh yeah, fix all of those.
Wow, man of many talents here, AJ.
Yeah, he really is.
What's your favorite movie, TV show? What do you like to watch?
Well, this is where you're going to get me now. I am not. If I'm just it's only lately that I've been watching some television, and I watch The Voice. Enjoy that. And I'm really into sci-fi type stuff. There was a show where these kids had these powers, and not the X-Men type of thing. These kids, there was an Asian guy. He could just disappear and reappear elsewhere. Some of the others had different powers. I mean, that's my speed. And I also love the X-Men show. I mean, the X-Men movies, love that stuff. I mean, you can, anything, if it's on television and it's got anything to do with sci-fi stuff, I'm down with it. I'm not a big Star Wars fan. Not Star Wars, Star Trek fan.
Star Trek, live long and prosper.
Yeah, I really never got it. I can't even do the thing right. Oh, there it is.
That's the only thing I could do. Spock could do that, and I was like, I can't do it with my left hand, but I can do it with my right hand. Live long and prosper.
There we go. There we go.
There it is, Byron.
There you go.
Yeah. No, but anything that has sci-fi in the sense of people with powers. There's a show that I'm gonna one of these days do a Netflix binge on it called something Strangers, or where these kids have these powers, and they were being hunted by the authorities because they were like mutants, and so they could not live their lives in peace. They were always being hunted. And the only way they can defend themselves by using the powers that they have. So,
I'm trying to remember that show. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. There's been so many of those kind of shows out there. I was thinking of Power Rangers. That kids, my kids were into Power Rangers that had those supernatural powers where they could do things. So, I remember Christopher and Ashton were those early '90s. The Power Rangers.
Yeah, and again, Power Rangers and Star Trek. Those are for me.
Yeah.
They're not like these shows where they've got these special powers, and like the X-Men kids, the X-Men and the adults. That I enjoy stuff like that. Yeah. Okay, maybe I'm vicariously. I wish I could have those powers.
I bet.
Yeah, I could. Because I my wife the other day asked me this question. Which of these would you prefer? To be able to read someone's mind? To become invisible? To be able to fly? Okay. Which of those three things?
That's a great question right there. I don't know if I'd want to know what's on people's mind. That might be scary. I'd say invisible. I'm going to go invisible. What do you say, AJ?
I love invisible, but I'm going to go with the read their minds because after the first few, I would probably realize, okay, I'm not going to take this one personally, or that would help a lot, or something. How about you, Byron? Which one are you going? Fly?
No, actually, I prefer invisible.
Invisible, like Craig.
Yeah, and here's the reason why. Invisible has its drawbacks. In that, someone toss some paint on you, all of a sudden you show up. But the fact is that if you're in stealth mode, they would never know you're there. And especially if someone is doing something that is devious, I want to be able to stop them from doing something evil to people. And that's the reason for my liking that. I don't want, you can do so with reading someone's mind, but I don't want to get into people's mind. I feel it's kind of wacky to
it's a little crazy, yeah.
But being invisible, because I can get almost just as much being invisible as
information.
If I'm there and they don't know I'm there, and they may be talking to themselves or talking to someone, and they're disclosing all these information, I want you to be. I got you.
All right.
Good stuff.
So I'm going to be invisible now. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner? Breakfast, lunch, or dinner? You like breakfast, lunch, or dinner? Which is your favorite? Serious question.
Give me a good dinner.
A good dinner, really? What are you eating?
Yeah. It's got to have chicken. It's got to have rice. But my favorite dish for dinner is cook-up rice from my home country. Cook-up rice is a combination of different types of meat. You can have beef or chicken, beef and chicken with split peas, made cooked in coconut milk and the rice.
Ooh, that sounds awesome.
And it's spiced up with the different spices. I mean, you cannot beat that for me in terms of taste, because that coconut milk just brings out the essence in the taste. You know?
And it's called cook-up rice. I've got to find a Guyanese restaurant around here. I'm going to do that, or a recipe. We're doing it at home.
Oh, yeah. You can. There's a guy who actually put out a lot of Guyanese recipe called the Guyana Outpost. And he literally has the recipes for just about every known Guyanese dish there is.
Love it.
Cook-up rice. That sounds really good.
Cook-up rice is hands down my favorite. Second for that would be oxtails and rice.
Oxtails. Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Is that good? Really? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oxtails. Oh. Especially when it's tender. And
slow cooked, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You can't rush it. You cook it to where the meat falls off the bone type of deal.
Amazing.
Well,
oh, yeah.
All right, so we're talking about food. That kind of segues into our next question. So we're having oxtail and cook-up rice at this soiree, this party, and we need 4 people, and it could be anybody from history, anybody from, it can be anybody, just anybody. We know AJ and I would be invited, and Marcia would be invited as well. Who would you invite to this soiree, this dinner party? At least 4 people. Who are you inviting?
There's one guy I would want to invite, and it starts with Putin.
Oh, Vladimir Putin.
Oh, yes. I want to figure out how he's able to control this group of people in his country, just reign with absolute power. I mean, the guy is one of the richest men in the world, and they can't find a way to topple him. They can't remove him. Doesn't matter what he's done. He's like Teflon.
Yep.
And he just sits back and he just smiles at everybody, and he controls things with an iron fist. That would be one of the guys I'd love to have and talk to.
Okay. So who else?
Someone in history would be. I like to have a conversation with Einstein.
Albert Einstein.
Yeah,
Einstein.
He'd be a good dinner guest. You got Putin, Einstein. That's a pretty good group going right now.
Oh yeah. Then I culturally, I would say if I'm to culturally pick a group of people, they find out about the Beatles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their history, how they got to really be where they were, and why they broke up so soon after creating a phenomena in the world, and then talk to them as they split up and went their separate ways. Their legacy has lived on in infinity, so to speak. Doesn't matter what. I mean, these guys probably would be passed on for 50, 60 years, 100 years, and they'll still be the Beatles.
They would, and they would say, I George Byron, could you please pass some more of that cook-up rice, mate?
You have to do it in real Guyanese accent.
Oh, I was going Liverpool, but give us yours.
Hey, mate, you got to give me some cook-up rice, man. What kind of thing is this?
Cook-up rice, man. What kind of thing is
this?
No
fish, and what you talk about? Give me a cook-up rice. I got to have my rice and my beef and my chicken inside there, boy. What's wrong with you, man?
Love the accent. Love it.
That's a lot of people. I mean, that's anybody else. That's a really good group. Anybody else that you would invite? Would you invite Yoko Ono with the Beatles, or leave her out?
No, she's got to be out.
Out. Hey, for those of you scoring at home, 71 episodes. Vladimir Putin has come up twice.
That's correct.
Really?
Yes.
But twice before. I believe it was Sasha Ermakov, Kati Gulai, my neighbor over here, and Byron Freso. Putin is an interesting cat, and I'm proud that he's come up a few times.
Oh, yeah. And if I were to, I would really love to, from another singer would be Luciano Pavarotti.
Oh, Pavarotti, yeah.
I love classical music, and I just thought he was an interesting character. He is a larger-than-life singer, a guy who embodies, the good living and the great life and the pomp, and he was such a for lack of a better terminology, he was a pompous guy.
Yeah. He was all about pomp, circumstance. You mentioned larger than life food and drink, obviously the way he sang, and he was a fan of tennis, and I would bet right now he would show up at some pickleball events if he knew you'd be there for sure. Oh
yeah, he loved his tennis. I mean, him in that little skivvy shorts.
That's quite a sight. That's pretty memorable right there.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good group. That's a great group. Are you an East Coast fan or a West Coast fan? Next question. East Coast, West Coast?
I have always been an East Coast fan, but I found myself liking the West Coast a little more than before. And here's my reason for really always thinking of the East Coast. I feel that everything happens based on East Coast time. The football games were based on East Coast. So, people in the West Coast had to get up at 10 o'clock in the morning to watch a football game, whereas, in the East Coast, you're 1 o'clock, you're on. I feel that most of my relatives were on the East Coast, so I didn't have to go out west to see them. So, East Coast.
East Coast. Would you say up by New York East Coast, or more down by Florida East Coast?
I'm kind of biased in Georgia.
Georgia. Okay. Yeah, Georgia East Coast. That's nice.
I really like that the Southeast, North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina. I really like that area because you're close to the beaches. You could go up into the mountains. You could go skiing. I learned to ski in North Carolina, in Boone, North Carolina.
Boone, I know it. That's where is it? Appalachian State is.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
My first experience skiing. Got up to Boone, and there was a group of us. My wife and I were the only two blacks in the Atlanta Ski Club.
I love it.
Wow.
The Atlanta Ski Club is one of the largest ski clubs in the country. Okay? And we were the only two blacks. And so we went to Boone and met this other black couple. And having met this other black couple, we sat down and said, well, you know what, man, it is strange that, not a whole lot of blacks to skiing. And, the old saying, black people don't like cold.
Yeah.
I said, well, I guess I'm the exception because I'm a guy from South America that live in Atlanta and go skiing. And so we found this other couple and started a black ski club in Atlanta called the Southern Snow Seekers. So, my wife and I are the charter members of the club. We were part of the organization called the National Brotherhood of Skiers that's based out of Chicago. And the National Brotherhood of Skiers puts on an annual summit. And I am telling you, it is the most unbelievable experience that you could have as a black person.
Wow.
You go take over all of Vail all of Aspen, all of Steamboat, all of Breckenridge. Every year, we literally, Park City, take over, and they build, put up these huge tents down in the town square area, and every night there's always a different function, a different theme every night. But there were 10,000 to 15,000 sometimes black skiers taking over these Whistler. I remember we were in Whistler one year, and this one guy, my guy turned to me and said, "Hey, are you with that group that is here in town?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Man, I've never seen that many black people in one place skiing." I said, "You haven't seen anything yet, because the group hasn't even arrived yet."
Wow, and you were early.
So there were 15,000 strong.
Wow.
And all these different resorts catered to us, literally wanted our business every year because we shopped. I mean, those black women, you don't that's a statement. No way. They want the latest, fanciest looking outfits, and they are to the nines. I mean, and so they love these different resorts, and we came to the resort, and they bidded for the opportunity to host the National Brotherhood of Skiers every year.
Wow.
I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah.
That sounds like it. That'd be an interesting time. And was it always
a blast? January,
February time frame, I guess?
Yeah, it was typically between February, March. We would go to these different resorts, and we've done New Zealand, Queenstown. We've took a group to New Zealand, to Peru, to Chile, Chile, and Argentina. We went to New Zealand, I said. We've been to Japan, in Europe, Innsbruck. I mean, we've all over the world. We've skied there. I mean,
wow.
In addition to just about every major resort, Mammoth, Steamboat, you name it, we've been there. And my wife and I, we got to be pretty good skiers. I even had a NASCAR rating.
You have one? Wow.
It's probably diminished by now because I haven't raced in 20-something years. Since I had a knee replacement and back surgery, I quit racing. But I as a matter of fact, I remember I was coming down Gun Barrel in Heavenly. There's a mogul run called Gun Barrel, and you would end up in the lodge when you came down the mountain. And here I was doing all these stem Christies, real fast, bum, 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 coming down. And I hit the wrong mogul. I hit it right on the side. I was supposed to hit it, over the top. You slide in between and then you carve out from there. Yeah. I hit it. I mean, that thing just twisted my knee. I could not ski for the rest of that trip. I was so pissed off. Yeah. But it's all part of the experience. It
is.
Did
you get involved with the rules committee of the skiing? You seem to be involved.
Actually, I did. I can't help myself. I'm always involved in some form or fashion with the rules and administration of different sports in which I participate. And so, I was involved in the racing. I helped out a lot of different NASCAR courses. I was one of the inspectors that started to see if a guy broke out a line or missed a gate or something of that nature. So, yeah.
All right.
That was fun. Those were some fun years.
Sounds like it. Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. Well, I got a couple more questions for you, and then we'll let you go because we're coming in on the 1:45 mark here, and we know that you've got other things to do. And what's your favorite pickleball tournament and why? I'm interested to hear what's your favorite pickleball tournament.
A tournament that I truly enjoyed in the early days of it was Tournament of Champions, before they changed their format. Tournament of Champions was purely the best players attended this tournament. And you had the competition that was second to none. I mean, everyone was a great player. And initially started off as an invitational only. John Gallo, who was the founder of Tournament of Champions, had it as you were only invited to participate in Tournament of Champions. And he was the first guy that put up big dollars, $60,000 for players to win. So that was one of my favorite tournaments. I love the U.S. Open for what it offers, and Nationals. They're different, and they appeal to different clientele, so to speak, even though at the end of the day, it's all the best players in the country, in the world, as a matter of fact, that attend. So Tournament of Champions, U.S. Open, Nationals. And if I were to go with a tournament that is not a big name tournament, but it was well run, well organized, and the volunteer system was tremendous, second to none. And that's called the Palm Creek Duel in the Desert.
Interesting.
Tournament down in Casa Grande, Arizona.
Arizona, right?
Yeah.
They easily get 800 players, and they were one of the first resorts that built 32 courts. Okay.
Wow.
I mean, unbelievable volunteer system they had there, and the resort made a commitment to pickleball, and they set up even a frame for the big television so that players can see when their next match is. They framed it, locked that television in there, and had it set up in such a manner that it was right there at the courts. You could see what's going on. Things were well organized. Their volunteer system, people came back early. Okay, so I stayed back later than they normally would from going back home, just to make sure that they're there to volunteer for Duel in the Desert. Because typically by end of February, people are leaving. People reschedule March. We're staying here until this tournament is over.
What a testament to what a great event it is. Yeah.
So another question we have about pickleball is the Ernie. How did Ernie get that name? AJ and I just learned about Ernie. It's not Big Bird and Ernie from Sesame Street, but it's ERNE. So we're wondering how did Ernie get its name?
It is alleged that he was the first person that actually made that shot up in I think Oregon or Washington. I think he's from Ernie Perry.
Ernie Perry.
Okay. Yeah.
So
rumor has it that he wanted to test the rules, and so he figured, what if I jump outside the court and I hit the ball right up at the net? And there was nothing in the rules that said I couldn't do it.
Right.
Okay. And so he started that whole trend, and it's become, one of the go-to shots for a lot of players. Being able to set an opponent up, to have them looking away to dink the ball, and then they just step over and just put it away.
Have you ever done?
And you put it away, and then the stipulation is you just need to land outside the no volley zone on the side of the sideline, right?
Kind of, yeah. Now here's the thing. Before the rules changed, you could actually step past the extension of the net, okay, but you had to make contact with the ball. So you could actually reach back and hit the ball from you. Now, if you step past the extension of the net before making contact with the ball, that's a fault.
That's what makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to make contact with the ball, and your follow through, you can follow through and run to the baseline of your opponent. You would only do that if you put the ball away.
Of course.
But the whole idea is that you want to put your opponents in a disadvantageous position by having them look down at the ball, and then you sneak up and just because typically what happens is that a player, if they're dinking the ball and an opponent pushed them out on the sideline, they're looking down at their ball, but they're not necessarily going to pull the ball all the way across the other side of the court. They just want to hit a safe shot in front of them. And that's where you take advantage of the Ernie by stepping in, and just as they hit the ball back straight ahead of them, boom, you put it away. So there's players don't take that chance. They hit the ball away from you.
Yeah,
AJ thought it was Ernie Banks also, too, maybe. It was named after. But I said, no, not Bert and Ernie or Ernie Banks. This has got to be something that we got to ask Lord Byron. He'll know officially because he's that kind of guy.
He'll definitely have the real answer, yeah. So it's Ernie from Oregon or Washington.
Yeah.
Ernie Perry.
It's funny that I've hit that shot about 5 times in my whole career.
That's it.
Yeah, 5 times. There sometimes players do that thing, 3-4 times in a tournament. It's been taking me, for all these years, only 5 times I was able to do it. It's a timing issue, and I prefer to do my job right at the non-volleys online and use my fake inside-out shots, rather than trying to create an Ernie. I leave that to the young bucks that could jump like crazy. There's one guy, Zane Affleck, one of the most athletic players there is. This guy can literally do an Ernie from the center of the court.
Come on.
He jumps from the middle of the court, and it doesn't matter. He doesn't need you to hit it down the side. You come across the middle, he comes straight across the middle, hit the shot, and land outside.
And land outside the sideline. Wow. Awesome.
I have seen this guy done a shot that was absolutely amazing. His partner is hitting the shot, dinking back and forth, and he timed this shot, his jump, that his partner was about to swing, but he flew right by his partner, struck the ball for a winner, and the opponent's still trying to figure out what the heck happened. Even his partner didn't realize what had happened. It's like all of a sudden I'm about to hit the ball, and next thing you know, Zane is flying by, hits a winner, and lands out of bounds.
That's legal.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
He's the only guy that I've ever seen done that.
Wow. Yeah.
Zane, when you asked that question about superpowers, Zane picked flying.
Right.
He went with the fly. Not the invisible, not the mind read.
Yeah. Right. You got to be a little bit. You got to be a little bit of a mind reader to know what's coming up from your opponent.
Yeah, figure the poach. Yeah.
Right.
But one of the things I enjoy doing to people that do that to me is hit them in the knees.
Yeah, to go low.
Yep. That's what I've done on several occasions.
Yeah, and you can go hard low. They're not going to Ernie.
Because I know what they're trying to do when they hit the ball out. So I go along with it. And I'm hitting my shot. I'm looking for them to come out in my peripheral vision.
Uh-huh.
As soon as they jump, I am, bam, straight to their knee.
Smart.
All right, last question. Here it is. And Nick Smith, one of our viewers, wanted to know about this as well. We always like to ask our guests, if you could wave the magic wand in pickleball, in the world of pickleball, is there a change or changes? You've talked about several different rule changes coming up. Is there one that you would like to see personally that maybe hasn't gone through? Is there something that, or maybe a couple of changes that you might tell us that you've been thinking about that may be on the horizon?
Well, I'm going to say this, and it's, for some people it's kind of controversial. I believe that when you call a timeout I call a timeout for myself. It is my timeout. Okay? And if I only want to use 15 seconds of that timeout or 20 seconds of that timeout, then that's all needs to be used. And I can say to the referee, I'm ready to go back and play. As opposed to now, if I say, okay, I'm ready to play, and my opponent says, referee, not ready yet. We still have 45 seconds. I'm going to use the full 45 seconds. And my contention is, it's my timeout, not yours. If you want to get 45 seconds, you call your own timeout. Okay. A lot of people argue that, well, basketball, it's a full 3 minutes or minute. Volleyball, it's a full minute. I said, well, those sports, the coaches want to have 5 minutes, in a timeout. Whereas with this particular sport, it's similar to racquetball. I want to be able to call when I'm ready to go back and play. It's time for me to play, because I may just want to disrupt the player. They've got some momentum going, and they're hurrying up and serving me, and I call a timeout, and that slows their momentum. And I got them thinking, okay, I'm going to use a full minute. And I said, oh no, sorry, I only want 15 seconds. Let's go back and play.
Yeah,
I'm going to be able to go back and have that ref start that match immediately, and don't have you resting on your laurels on my timeout. A lot of people, some people like the idea, some don't. But that's one of the things I would love to see implemented in the future. Oh, by the way, one other rule that has just been that's going to come up for the new year is the let serve.
Let serve, touching the net?
Yes.
Okay. What's going on?
In the past, a let was a replay, let replay.
Sure.
Now, if the ball clips the net, it's in play. As long as it clears and lands in the right box. So if you serve and the ball clips the net, you better play it. Come next year.
Like run, get to it, because it's going to be short, probably.
Similar to volleyball now has adopted that. In volleyball, you can serve and clip the net, and you got to go dig that ball. They have adopted that in pickleball now. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that works out.
Yeah, well,
good rule changes,
yes.
And I can speak for Craig Bell and say we always learn so much in conversations with Byron Freso. Thank you.
Yes, Lord Byron, man, what a great night. That you've given us a lot of gold, as Seinfeld reference would say.
Yeah,
gold, Jerry, it's gold.
As Kevin Banya might say.
Yeah,
this is gold, Byron. This is just Jerry. It's gold.
Yeah, we've had 2 hours of Guyana's favorite son, Lord Byron Freso. So we really appreciate the opportunity we had to spend a couple hours with you. It's been well spent. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. And anytime, I would always appreciate coming on your show.
Well,
we'd love to do a part 2, especially when the season really kicks into gear in a month or two. So let's keep in touch, gentlemen. And Byron, big thanks. Wishing you and Marcia a wonderful trip in Arizona this winter.
Thank you so much. You take care.
Well, thank you for your time.
Talk to you guys soon.
We'll be back in touch.
All right. Will do.
Thank you, Byron.
Byron,
Bye-bye.
take care. Wow, what a great guest. I knew he wouldn't disappoint, right?
No way. We knew it, and just so much good information and well told. He's so beautifully spoken. I'm partial to that accent. Love that. It's Guyana's in South America, but it's got the Caribbean sound to the way he speaks. I love it.
And a little British in there as well. So
that's right.
Very, very nice. Had a lot of fun with Lord Byron Freso. Like I said, Guyana's favored son, right?
Yeah.
All right. Love it. Should we cue up old Jimmy Campbell?
Jimmy Campbell, yes.
All right. We'll close this shindig down, right? Turn out the lights. The party's over, right?
Thanks. Well done, everybody.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to Season 1, Episode 71 of At the Net Podcast. Join us next week as we'll be talking with military veteran Jason Morgan. Boy, that's going to be a great show also, too, don't you think, AJ?
I do. I really enjoyed meeting him a month or two ago. We had lunch on 11/11, I think, Veterans Day.
Yes, we did. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. He's written a book, and we're interested in talking to Jason about his experiences in the military and out of the military. So also join us Wednesday evening at 8 o'clock on our At The Net Instagram page with the little tennis shorts, right?
We've got, I don't know about little, but we've got tennis shorts. Craig Bell's tennis shorts. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, what's in my shorts, all right? That's as AJ always says, which I always say not much. But also, and lastly, be sure to tell a friend, as we like your friends. Hopefully they'll like us, right, AJ?
That's right.
All right, and that's the pickleball news as it seems to us. Good evening, everybody, from Dallas, Texas.
Good night, everybody. Thank you. CB1, well done producing and co-hosting. Thank you, everybody.
All right, we'll see you later.